Welcome to VSOW.
Hello.
Today, we're turning our attention to a really compelling subject from our research, Black dandyism.
Yes, it's a fascinating area.
And it's something that, goes way beyond just clothes, doesn't it? It seems deeply embedded in history, society, politics.
Precisely. And our aim in this deep dive really is to get past that surface level. We'll be looking closely at our notes, our research, to explore its deeper meaning, both as an aesthetic, sure, but also as a strategy, a response that still feels relevant today.
Right. So we'll trace it back, look at the origins, see how it changed over time, and try to understand why it still matters now. Let's start with the basics, though. How do we actually define Black dandyism? What are we really talking about?
Well, to really get it, we have to go beyond that simple idea of a dandy just being someone fussy about clothes. Ike Beauty's point is crucial here, the dandy challenging norms through dress. It's a real reflection of identity, of self-confidence.
Okay, so it's deliberate. It's making a visual statement, not just looking sharp. And Monica Miller's work, I remember from the notes, adds another really important layer.
It really does. Miller suggests Black dandyism has this unique weight for Black individuals, especially those who went through that horrific identity erasure of slavery. For them, making a show of themselves, the self-display, it becomes a way to turn that absence into presence,
Wow.
to make themselves seen when society wanted them invisible.
That's powerful. A visual declaration almost against being ignored. And it's not just stuck in the past, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. It's still a living social and cultural thing deeply connected to the African diaspora.
Yeah.
And Miller also brings in this idea of signifying.
Signifying. Okay, how does that work in terms of clothing?
Right. So signifying here is about cleverly playing with the rules, with conventional clothing norms. It's about revising them, repeating them, maybe turning them upside down, or just transforming them completely to create new images, new identities. Black dandies weren't just, putting on European clothes. They were twisting them, reinterpreting them.
Like a kind of remix.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. A sartorial remix, taking the existing language of fashion, but adding their own cultural accent. Maybe a different cut, a bold color, creating a look that spoke to their reality and their heritage.
Got it. That makes sense. Now, thinking about where it first pops up, our research points towards England initially.
Right.
What was the situation like there?
Yeah, the early English context is, well, it's marked by really harsh mistreatment and dehumanization of Black people. You just have to look at the words from Mungo's song, The Padlock, back in 1768. It gives you a chilling sense of that oppressive reality.
That line, "Me wished to delord me was dead." Yeah, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? And this wasn't just a fleeting thing, this sense of being less than human.
No, it had deep roots. Halkin's research talks about how Black people were often shown wearing masks in portraits, the mask of Blackness. It was like a visual code for inferiority, for lower status.
A visual shorthand for prejudice. That's disturbing.
Hmm.
And our notes also mention some pretty unsettling practices among the wealthy back then.
Yes, indeed. Florence Shallon points out how some rich Britons kept Black people almost like luxury items or pets, purely to show off their wealth.
Unbelievable.
And these individuals were often dressed up fashionably, but their actual status still completely marginalized. Objects, essentially.
Living ornaments, wow. It just highlights the total lack of agency. That painting of Lady Mary Churchill with the black servant boy, that really captures it, doesn't it?
Perfectly. The boy's dressed nicely, sure, but look at his position, the whole context. He's clearly secondary, just there.
Yeah.
No real identity of his own in the picture.
Mm.
Facing that, it makes sense that when Black self-expression through style emerged in America, it might have looked a bit different.
Right. How did it contrast? How did Black dandyism develop differently in the American context?
Well, our research, especially looking at Bargelstrom's work, suggests it might have integrated a bit more quickly into American society, partly perhaps as a way to express oneself, but also pragmatically to maybe help blend in, find work after emancipation.
Ah, okay. So a practical side to it in America, maybe more than just pure expression.
That seems to be a key difference. Evik Lott's look at the Pinkster Festival is interesting here. It shows an early phase where different racial groups sometimes wore similar things, a kind of integration. But then there was a definite shift. Black individuals started choosing a distinct Black king style, a conscious move away from just blending in.
Asserting difference then, a cultural identity marker. And the whole experience of slavery, being forced to wear European clothes, that must have played a huge role.
Oh, absolutely. Forcing European dress on enslaved Africans was a direct attack on their cultural identity. So later, when Black people started consciously using fashion, it became a way to show a kind of hybrid identity, a visual link to what some call the African diasporic dream, that longing for a connection back across the Atlantic. Fashion was one way to make that visible.
So taking back control of style was tied up with reclaiming identity, reclaiming heritage. Richard T. Schaefer's work also mentions something about the practical side of clothes for enslaved people.
Yes, Schaefer notes that sometimes wearing finer clothes could actually lead to slightly better treatment or maybe access to different kinds of jobs. But then you have the flip side. In some places, slaves were forced into women's clothes specifically to degrade them.
It's just stark, isn't it? How clothes could be used both to oppress and maybe sometimes offer a tiny bit of leverage.
Hmm.
Which leads us to the bigger picture of slavery and the tensions building towards rebellion.
Right. You had Black people fighting alongside white Americans in the War of Independence for this idea of a free country. But then the South's whole economy based on agriculture.
Relied heavily on enslaved labor.
Exactly. So there was huge resistance to abolition. And that resistance led to things like the Fugitive Slave Law in 1850. In that climate where basic rights were denied, dandyism really emerged as a form of, well, resistance against those social barriers.
So the careful dressing wasn't superficial at all. It was a quiet but definite act of defiance against a system trying to erase their humanity.
Precisely. By the 1820s, you can really see Black dandyism as a direct response to all that mistreatment. Clothing became a tool, a way to hold on to a unique African identity within this hostile new world. And this is also when we see Black dandies moving into theater, into music, performing these antisocial songs, as they were called then. Which brings us to figures like Longtail Blue.
Longtail Blue or
Yeah,
Dixon.
right.
Our notes mention him as a black-faced dandy figure. What was important about him and his style?
Longtail Blue was significant because he was so bold with the dandy look within blackface performance. His song, My Long Tay Blue, and his whole outfit, the hat, shiny shoes, colorful pants, and that blue jacket with the tail. Apparently the tail symbolized responsibility. It all created a really strong, memorable image.
And that jacket caused quite a stir, didn't it? Even got him arrested.
It did, yeah. The jacket was controversial, led to a short jail stay for Dixon, but the fact that the public apparently supported him afterwards shows how much his character resonated. And then, after him, we get another really key figure, Jim Crow, played by Rice.
Another crucial person in this early history.
Absolutely. Jim Crow was a real pioneer Black dandy through his theater and music in New York. And his songs didn't shy away from the big issues: racism, slavery, the desire for freedom. His way of dressing, his specific dances, they were forms of protest, too.
Those song excerpts we have are really striking. The one about the Philadelphia nigger dressed up quite nice, only to face violence. Such a blunt commentary.
It is. And him singing about wanting to be a gentleman of color, it just speaks volumes about the hurdles and hopes back then. His performances also use this technique called race inversion.
Race inversion.
Yeah, where Black performers would ironically act like they were fortunate despite being oppressed. It was a really clever way to expose how absurd and unfair the whole racist system was.
A sharp kind of social critique, turning the narrative inside out. These early dandies seem to be reacting to and maybe even highlighting these growing racial divides.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And later, you see the term color line get formally defined and spread, especially through writers like Frederick Douglass and W.B. Du Bois. It captures that rigid pigeonholing based on skin color, class, behavior, something that started way back, and sadly, we still see echoes of today.
It became this defining, damaging line drawn through society.
It did. And for Black dandies, having lost their homeland, facing all this inequality, style became absolutely essential, a form of rebellion, a way to keep their identity alive against that oppressive color line.
It's so clear it was never just about looking good. It always carried this weight of resistance, of asserting who you were. How did this evolve as we move into the 20th century? Did it become more political?
Yes, very much so, especially with modernism, and specifically Black modernism, emerging. Black dandyism shifted towards being a more overtly political movement. Dorothea Fisher Hornung talks about how Black modernism aimed to really express Black identity in art.
So it went from individual expression to more organized collective statement.
Exactly. Houston A. Baker's research shows Black dandies in cities starting to organize, demanding recognition, demanding equality, pushing against those race and gender limits. And interestingly, sometimes white middle-class people join these demonstrations too, showing a kind of broader push for social change.
That collective action must have felt like a significant shift.
It really was. And the silent protests of 1917 is such a powerful example of this political dandyism. You had this peaceful march honoring black soldiers back from World War I, but also demanding basic civil rights. And the way they presented themselves, dignified, stylish, was a huge part of the statement.
Absolutely. How did literature reflect these ideas about dandyism and identity around that time?
Well, Frantz Fanon's work, Black Skin, White Masks, is incredibly insightful here. He analyzes the psychological toll of being forced to wear these white masks, the white clothes, the white attitudes when you have black skin. He really highlights that struggle, that loss of identity when people are forced to conform.
That quote about the ugly uniform really hits home, describing that inner conflict.
It does. And then you have Margot Duran's work on An Ex-Colored Man,
Woohoo.
the biography of a black dandy. It explores the main character's internal battle between white society's values and his connection to the black diaspora, basically fighting that color line from within.
A personal story mirroring the bigger societal fight. And Celeste Marie Bernier, in Visualizing Slavery, she offers another angle on how black men's clothing was seen.
Yes. Bernier points out that even if mainstream society saw black men dressing differently as rebellious, their clothing often modest but distinct, sometimes using African fabrics, was actually like a language expressing rights, identity, culture.
So even small style choices could carry huge meaning. Let's circle back to those earlier figures for a moment. You mentioned a difference between northern and southern types of ancient dandyism.
Yes, it's kind of a useful distinction. Northern figures, like Zip Coon, often had a more flamboyant style, fancy clothes, captivating songs, whereas Southern figures, like Jim Crow, while still dandies in their way, their performances often more directly reflected the suffering and reality of enslaved people.
A difference in presentation reflecting different experiences.
Right. And Hans Nathan's research shows the lyrics back then were often quite simple, very direct. But ancient dandyism wasn't just clothes and songs. It was also about specific ways of moving, dancing, facial expressions. These early dandies were aiming for unique styles, not just copying others.
Which brings us leaping forward into the modern era, and someone whose style and influence were just massive, Michael Jackson.
Indeed. Michael Jackson, the king of pop. Our research certainly suggests he can be seen as a major figure in that modern black dandy lineage. Think about his performances. He often used traditional dance moves you might trace back to minstrelsy, like certain steps, claps, finger clicks. But then he'd combine that with something totally new, like the moonwalk.
And his music often tackled racism, right?
It definitely did. Of course, his work wasn't without controversy. The black or white video faced accusations of inciting violence, for instance. And his changing skin color was heavily criticized, although he stated it was due to vitiligo.
The symbolism in the Ghosts video feels particularly relevant here, thinking about blackface and identity.
Absolutely. You have the graveyard setting, maybe hinting at the black minstrel figure, caged animals perhaps symbolizing how black people were treated, and that key moment where he takes off the bone mask.
Revealing his face underneath.
Exactly. It really echoes that whole blackface mask idea, stressing that what's inside matters more than skin color.
And his clothes, of course, were such a huge part of his image. Very flamboyant.
Undeniably. That love for fancy, colorful clothes definitely fits the dandy spirit. Maybe even a nod, however unconscious, to those times when enslaved people had brief moments of stylistic freedom. Ultimately, though, a lot of his art seemed aimed at a message of unity, of shared humanity beyond race.
And beyond the message, his impact as a global fashion icon was just enormous.
Immense, yes. He influenced singers, actors, fashion worldwide, reviving the moonwalk, popularizing those 80s jackets, the single glove, the military-style outfits. It all created a very distinct look, a statement of masculinity, too.
But he also played with gender norms in his style, famously.
Oh, absolutely. He wore things often seen as feminine, those white gloves, elaborate jackets, shiny pants maybe inspired by singers like Madonna. It definitely challenged traditional ideas of what masculinity looked like. And then there was the makeup, lipstick, eyeliner hairstyles, sometimes similar to Elizabeth Taylor's, even using an umbrella like some Asian women did. He really blurred those lines.
It's clear, then, that black dandyism is this incredibly rich, complex thing.
Yeah.
So much more than just clothes.
Absolutely. It's really a powerful story about identity, about resistance, about defining oneself on one's own terms.
From those quiet acts of self-styling under unbelievable oppression, right up to bold political statements through dress and performance, black dandies have consistently pushed back against norms and made their presence felt.
And that legacy is still unfolding. You see contemporary artists drawing on this tradition all the time, using style as this language of individuality, of cultural expression.
Well, this deep dive has really only scratched the surface, hasn't it? There's so much more to explore. We definitely encourage you, our listeners, to dig deeper into the figures, the history, the art connected to Black dandyism.
Yes, definitely worth exploring further.
Thank you for joining us for this exploration. If you found this discussion insightful, please do subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating cultural, historical topics. And give this discussion a like and share it with anyone else you think might be interested.
Thank you for listening to VSOW.